I have the pleasure of introducing another storyteller, a friend of mine, a good man, Mike Prosserman. Mike is one of the most brilliant break dancers I know. He is the founder of Unity, which is a very successful charity here in Toronto that have helped thousands of kids over the years. After building Unity into a brilliant organization, he passed the helms on to a new leadership team and has been consulting with for-profit and not-for-profit organizations over the past period. He's an author, and his book is a fantastic read, easy read, inspiring. So, Mike, we're so grateful to have you on our call today.
It's an honor, and I always say anything that Hisham is behind, I am supportive 100%. And as soon as I heard this idea, I was just like, yes, yes, and yes. So thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for being here. Just on the pretense of goodness, it's beautiful to see how many people have given their time tonight. I'm happy to share, and I'll tell you a little bit about my personal story to sort of illuminate, and I really relate to this previous talk around from Elisa around the mensch idea, because yeah, just I experienced a lot of things in my life in relation to mental health. My mom really struggled when I was a young person, and a very young person. When I was about 5, she was diagnosed with a pretty serious mental illness, and that sort of threw our whole family into a bit of a whirlwind, to say the least. And I was not a good stress expressor. It just really bottled up inside of me. And when I found breaking, b-boying, hip hop, as we call it in the media, called breakdancing, but I'll refer to it as b-boying. When I found b-boying and my crew, I was just able to express all the anger and all the emotions that I couldn't express through words. So when I started Unity, I was in high school, I was in grade 11, and I knew I wanted to use hip hop as a tool to improve youth mental health, because I wanted to do something about it. So I think about this mensch idea, and like the idea of just, yeah, I could say I want to do something about it, but in my grade 11 class, we had an opportunity to run a class project. It was an entrepreneurship class, write a business plan and do a venture and give the money to a charity. So I said, you know what? I got my group together and we got everyone organized, and we did this event called Hip Hop Away from Violence, which is what it was called at the time. And it was a complete failure. No one showed up. Everything was a disaster. But I knew in my heart, because hip hop had really saved my life and put me on a path to just community and self-expression, that I knew there was something there. We just didn't organize it properly. We didn't give it justice to what it deserves. So the next year I joined student council and tried to divert as many funds towards this event as possible, and was successful in creating a very large event that had everyone in silence when young people were sharing their stories. And I just knew in that moment, this was just scratching the surface, so yeah, having that second family, my own crew in my own life through breaking, and seeing that I could be even a very young person and make a difference, that just sparked something in me. And from that moment, it just kept going and going and going. Lots of crying, lots of hard work. I'm a really big believer that if you have an idea and you can bring together a community as we're doing tonight, which is so beautiful. You don't even have to know exactly what that idea is, which is again why I love what's happening tonight, because this is exactly how Unity started. This is actually exactly how anything great starts, is getting a bunch of people together who want to contribute to something within their community and co-creating that thing. And that's exactly what we did. We hung out in my basement with a bunch of artists, youth, volunteers, literally anyone who wanted to volunteer and get involved. Like it's almost exactly this, except we're in the virtual world. And we just came up with ideas and we started writing them up. What if we run an after school program? Okay, maybe. How do we do that? Where do we seek funds? How do we do that? And we just made it up as we went along. So I'm not a big believer in rules. And in the new book, which has a 6-step process that supported me in building Unity, starting with the spark. So what is your spark? What are some of the things you've experienced in your life that have really affected you, that you want to do something about? And maybe it's in the back of your head, kind of to Elisa's point around like always wanted to do this thing but never taken action on it. What's like a tiny thing, the smallest possible thing you could do to even poke it and see what happens? And that's really what we did, but we just kept poking and poking. And I kind of I wanted to quit all the time. Like I hated it. It was a love-hate relationship, because in one sense we were doing this incredible work and you could see the impact. In another sense, I hated being the boss. I didn't want to be in charge of something. So I had this weird relationship with it. But over 15 years, we were able to, really employ a lot of artists. And that to me was another thing that kept me going. When I saw my crew and my friends and people I'd never met before who were practicing hip hop artists, making, quitting their jobs at American Eagle, stacking shelves and deciding to invest in their art and arts education. My crew was a big motivation. My mom, who, thank God has been healthy and well, and, she's painting, and her creativity has been a motivator, and her love. And just really, and I talk about this in the book around how much her resilience, just seeing her fight through schizophrenia and cancer and so many unbelievable things, and splitting up with my pops, like it's just, when I think about resilience, I think about her. And I don't know if anyone here has someone in their life that, when things are tough, you think about that person and like, wow, it doesn't even take much. Just, I think about my mom, and then I feel like I have the strength to move forward. So how I overcame the barriers, I just kept moving. Like when I didn't want to move, I took the step. When I felt defeated, I woke up and just did it. And sometimes I felt really, really terrible, to be honest. Like every probably week or month, I would go home to my now wife and say, why the heck am I doing this? Like, what, like why? It like was killing me. It literally was killing me. And I could tell you a bit more about that. But ultimately, the purpose is what led me. And now I have a bit of a contentious relationship with that idea that you need to hurt yourself to help other people. I think that is a crock of stuff, badness that we should throw out, and we can really take care of ourselves better. So if I were to reverse and rewind, which is again part of the later chapter in my book around evolution, around caring for myself, so I'm going to be around to be able to care for others. Because if I'm not well, which later on in my journey I became unwell, and developed my own anxiety, I couldn't function. And so as much as I say move forward when it hurts, I also preface that with, I kind of wish I took better care of myself. And now I have a whole practice around how do I support myself, especially when I'm giving to others, because it's very easy to fall into the story, oh, I can just do more and more and more and more, until you can't, right? So yeah, that's how I overcame some of those barriers. we had grown to a place where I was completely uncomfortable. Like, it's not where we started it. We had 15 full-time staff, and we're supporting 80 artists, educators across Canada, employing 80 artist educators. And we had a board of directors with like presidents of banks and things. Like, I'm just like, this is ridiculous. And I felt like, although I'm completely happy with where Unity is now, sometimes what it takes to build something is not what it takes to keep it going. So I knew that I needed to let it go. Plus, I had my own mental health challenges towards the end. But I don't think it was that. I think the real piece that broke it was I was getting too comfortable. I had created something with the intention of, if this thing is good, or using the word good, then the community will keep it going. I'm a big believer that not everything needs to live forever. If it were to die as I passed it off to the next person, that's completely okay. And it didn't. It's actually thriving. In fact, tonight, right after this at 7, right after this is their big annual event. They're calling it the Bounce Back. So they're doing incredibly well. So but I do believe these types of projects have a life. And I also do believe that it can be as simple as, helping your neighbor load in their groceries, as Peter was doing on our last call, or it can be as complex as starting an organization with a sustained life. But I challenge folks when they grow something, especially in business, like, how much is enough? Like, that's a question I really ask people, is how much is enough? And also, what is the ideal size for your organization? And Hisham, I've always been just really impressed with the work that you do as well. And you just have, to me, the perfect size team and the perfect size business that is able to serve people authentically and well, and care for them. And I see people take ideas and just scale them because they can, or because maybe there is demand for it. But does that mean it needs to be done? Is that the best thing for the environment? Is that the best thing for what the world actually needs right now? And the only way to do that is to ask, like, involve people who are most affected by the issue you're trying to solve, not making decisions on behalf of other people. Like, when we built Unity, we always had artists at the table, youth at the table, people in the communities we were reaching out to, making the decisions with us, because we didn't know anything about what we were doing, so we had to co-create it. And I think this top-down leadership structure now in society has been really challenged, and rightfully so. I'm thankful to see, and I call it in the book, building the plane while flying it, right? Like, we make it up as we go along. And just because it was done 100 years this way doesn't mean that I have to do it that way. In fact, I generally don't follow the rules, except the law. I do follow the law, and I'm not encouraging you not to follow the law. Don't get that twisted. But when it comes to silly rules that don't make sense on how we treat people in our organizations, or even just that we walk by on the street, I don't accept how things have been done, because I think we've in some cases done a pretty miserable job of saying things to people when they lose someone, or being there for folks. So I always say, let's just do better. And anything we're building, that's my mentality, is like, how can I do better? How can I do better? How can I do better, without getting caught up in like the moment? Like, I'll do my best right now, but next time I'm definitely going to do it better. I think there's something about the b-boy in me of like, always leveling up. And that is another thing I talk about sort of a lot in the book, is the relationship between the creativity in b-boying and the community in b-boying and the creation process in breaking. I could give you an example. So you learn different foundational steps in breaking. So there's like something called the top rock. I could show you the top rock. So there's like steps like this, steps like this, right? And if I wanted to mix them up in a different order, I could just freestyle. So the idea of freestyling in life, if I were to go on the same side or to double up the speed, right? I'm just making that up right now on the spot. So it's like it took a certain amount of practice to learn those individual movements. But in life, we're freestyling all the time, right? Like we're making things up based on the things that we had learned before. So, you know, in breaking, we say learn your foundation. And then you can do anything, you know? So when I think about building a nonprofit or contributing to the community, what are the foundations that you want to absorb and learn? And in hip hop, we say it's an always learning mentality. Like each one teach one, you know, learn something from someone else in the community, because we're all holders of knowledge. Everyone in this room holds knowledge. I hate the fact that I'm speaking right now, because I'm going to slow it down so we can have more time, because everyone here is a knowledge keeper and a storyteller, and your stories are all important. So how do you use your story and live into your story in the work that you put out in the world? And, you know, I'm not saying everyone needs to do that, but that is something that that's been my compass, is trying to impact the things that I've experienced or the communities that I'm part of, because it's so much more authentic than, you know, me sort of dropping into someone else's world and saying, you know, I have a solution for you, right? But because I've been breaking and dancing and part of this community for 20 years and earned the respect of the people in it and became part of it, I brought the community that I'm part of along on this journey, and we all elevated together. So like, what communities are you all part of that that you can elevate and bring those people along? So it's a beautiful thing. It's a lot of fun, but it's something that I encourage people to take in small steps and do what feels right for you. Because I'm not here to tell anyone what to do. More just to share some of those experiences. I didn't expect to dance. That just sort of happened. That was me freestyling right there. I'm checking my notes. It doesn't say dance. That's for sure. Yeah, my grandfather used to say, and you know, money is like manure. I'll use manure instead of what he actually said. If you pile it up, it stinks, but if you spread it around, it fertilizes. So just another sort of analogy of like, what is enough, right? Like we say, oh, we want to save and we want to keep growing and intergenerational wealth, and that's completely fine. But at some point, it's like, you know, how are we contributing to the communities that we're part of? How are we living a meaningful life? And I've just spent my whole life asking myself those questions. And again, just like quickly going back to the book, is the big thing about it is like, if I could summarize the whole book, it's self-reflection. Like as human beings, I personally believe we don't look at ourselves enough and say, what can I do better? It's, you know, when you talk about ego, I think about the ego getting in the way. It's always someone else's fault or something else that someone else can do. It's like, and that's fine, that's true, but what can I do? You know, I've heard I took a management course and someone said there's no bad employees, there's only bad managers. And I'm like, I had to really think about that. I'm like, true, you know, like I have an impact in everything that I do, every action that I take, every facial expression I make to someone has an impact, you know? So not to overthink it, just to you know, to be good. And that's why I love the simplicity of this concept that we're gathering tonight. So I can leave it at that, because I know we got to jump into those breakout rooms. So, you know, think about the goodness that you're bringing tonight. Think about why you showed up tonight. Like, not just because, you know, your friend told you, but actually now that you're hearing what's going on, like, what are some of those things in the back of your mind that you've always wanted to do, or some of the things you might have started doing and you know, you want to take forward and start speaking about out loud, you know? And the last thing I'll say to that is, even just speaking about something is starting the path to doing it. Because, you know, we think about, oh, I have to register a organization, or, you know, start, you know, organizing volunteers. No, none of that. It's just, if I have a conversation with a friend about an idea, I've already seeded that concept with another person. So this, what's happening tonight is like ground zero for like who knows what. I'm excited to see 5 years from now what this conversation leads to, even, you know, a month from now.